I would like to start by asking all of you here a simple question. By the show of hands, how many people here have been told to work really hard in high school so that you could get into a good college, get a good job, and live a comfortable life ever after? So I see quite a few hands going up, and if you've been told that, you're not the only one. Every year, around 40 million people buy into the same myth with hopes of joining the labor force, but end up being unemployed. As per an ILO report, today the rate of youth unemployment stands at about 13%, which is 3 times higher than what it is for adults. As we speak here today, there are many young unemployed people out there who are vulnerable into being manipulated and victimized into joining criminal organizations and even terrorist groups for that matter, in exchange for food and finance to support themselves and their families. Even worse, many youngsters are thinking of suicide as they are unable to cope with the emotional and financial burden that comes with being unemployed. No wonders economists refer to youth unemployment as a generation that's simply lost. I know the pain of rejection and just how stressful such situations can get. So I would like to share my personal journey with you guys to reiterate that indeed there is light at the end of the tunnel for every youngster, given that we evolve as a society. My journey started after my 10th grade board exams when our counselor, Miss Tiffany, asked us to make the most of the summer break by going out and getting an internship. I've always been very inclined towards business as a subject, so I was sure that I wanted to do something in that space. So very enthusiastically, I started sending mails, around 50 a day, to some of the top Fortune 500 companies. But my enthusiasm soon turned into disappointment as majority of the companies that I reached out to didn't even bother to reply to me, and the ones who did outrightly rejected me. Now I would like to clarify something here. It's not that I couldn't have gotten an internship with the help of my parents or through my school, but I wanted to be self-made. Coming back to the story, so I'd spent about 3 weeks in trying to find an internship, and by that time I think I'd faced around 100 plus rejections. Summer break was coming soon, and both my disappointment and desperation were at its peak. So in order to find a solution, I decided to change my strategy. I changed my focus from being an idealist to being a realist. So that meant I stopped applying to Fortune 500 companies and I started applying to fast food restaurants. I distinctly remember the time when I'd applied to Burger King as a cashier, and to my surprise, I was rejected from there as well. Two things happened that day. First is that I developed an immense amount of respect for all cashiers at all fast food joints. And second is that I swore not to have Burger King from that day on. Trust me, I'm not kidding. But even with all these rejections, one of the values that my school and my educational program so far has instilled in me is perseverance, aka the never give up attitude. So I didn't lose hope and I kept applying, and soon came the turning point of my life, as I like to call it. A $1 billion investment firm responded back to my application. However, this time the answer was different. It was finally that yes that I'd been waiting for. I was offered the post of a junior investment analyst by the founder of the firm himself, Mr. Luthra, as he recognized the importance of starting work at an earlier age. After all the struggles and hardships that I'd faced, I didn't take this opportunity that I got for granted. So I worked incredibly hard and I strived to learn fast. Over the 2 months of my summer break, I was able to close a couple of high-value investment deals. And as a result, I was retained by my firm, and I was even offered flexible working hours as I was studying. But after the initial internship period, I didn't want to stop working because I was learning so much about how the real world actually works. So in order to continue working, I had to make a promise to my parents, saying that I would manage both my school life and my work life in such a way that both would thrive. And I think for all of us doing IB here, we know what that kind of a promise can mean. So I ended up working during lunch breaks, my free blocks, and much after most of the world had fallen asleep. Yes, that also meant that I had no rest over the weekends, and even during vacations too. However, with that being said, my tip to you guys is to find what you love and do what you love. Doing what you love will give a new dimension to your thinking. Go for it, fight for it, and no matter what happens, don't give up. So after all the hardships and struggles came the rewards. Within 15 months of joining the firm, I was promoted to become the VP or the Vice President of their startup investment division. I was also promoted to become a COO at one of their New York-based tech startup companies. This is a glimpse into one of my most rewarding moments, as I like to call it.
This is Upcoming Young Innovator. This award is going to be given to the one innovator here who, even though despite his or her young age, is able to make such huge impacts in the industry. The Upcoming Young Innovator Award will go to Aamir Khan. Can we give a round of applause, please? Congratulations.
Thank you so much. So, despite these tiny steps forward, I don't forget the space where I started from. It always keeps me humble and hungry to go out and get more things done. People often ask me how am I able to perceive deals that are worthy of investing in. My genuine answer to that is to keep your eyes and ears open to the upcoming trends and emerging patterns in the market. It's absolutely crucial for us to identify these opportunities, take reasonable risks, and most importantly, to keep our learning and research ongoing. Please note how I said learning and not studying. Now, the old equation of a good college equals to a good job or a good life will soon cease to exist. Visionaries like Richard Branson, Milton Hershey, and Henry Ford for that matter, all of these people didn't have a formal college education, as we like to call it. Now, I'm not debating whether or not a college degree or formal education is essential to being successful. Instead, what I'm just trying to say is that the old system of you choosing a career that you studied for won't exactly be relevant by the time we go to college. By the time we all graduate from our dream universities, there's going to be one drastic change. Yes, they are coming. Soon they're going to be everywhere. In our houses, on our streets, and in our offices, more importantly. A McKinsey's report revealed that almost 60% of all jobs today can be completely automated. Robots have the ability to work 24/7, 365 days a year, and that too at a fraction of a cost compared to us human professionals. And of course, in order to eliminate labor problems such as trade unions, employee demands, and strikes, employers would gladly replace us humans with robots. But again, we must ask ourselves another question. Is this the first time that our workforce is being displaced? Absolutely not. During the Industrial Revolution, manual labor, and today concepts like automation and digitalization are giving rise to new terms that we hadn't even heard until a couple of years back. For example, delayering and downsizing. In fact, Jeff Bezos has something called the 2-pizza rule, which says that if you can't feed your entire core team with 2 pizzas, it's simply too large. Another very frequently asked question is, why is AI and robots posing a threat to our jobs? And I feel sometimes the questions that we ask ourselves in the society are wrong, and in order to really understand the current situation, we must look at it from a different perspective. You see, AI and robots are only able to do what we teach them to do and how we teach them to do it. So this means that they're only able to comprehend the problems that we, like us humans, program into them. So does this mean that we would lose our jobs in the future? Unfortunately, yes. But does this mean that we would lose our work in the future? Now the answer to that is a no. I believe this understanding will bring about a paradigm shift, as I like to call it. You see, in the future, irrespective of your occupation or the field that you're working in, you would be working in the capacity of that of an entrepreneur. You'd have to be someone who can recognize, comprehend, and is sensitive to the problems being faced by people in the society. And this is something that AI and robots simply can't do. This also means that meaningful work will always remain with us. The mammal ability that we possess to dream and create mental constructs is the entrepreneur within all of us. Sure, there might be unemployment in the future, but again, unemployment is just a lack of jobs. What we are doing for ourselves now is something much more larger and meaningful. We're creating work for ourselves. I also believe that it's high time we undo the clichéd myth that in order to be a successful entrepreneur, one has to be a tech unicorn. Out of the many startups that we are working with, I would like to give an example of two of them to prove my point. This is the plight of the Palestinian youth. Now, Palestine is a country with an immense amount of young population, and it promises a lot in the future too. Fresh graduates are looking for opportunities to prove themselves, just like I was during my summer break. But the problem that persists in Palestine is the political unrest, and that political unrest is massively hindering and hampering the future prospects for the Palestinian youth as a whole. To overcome this problem, our startup investment division is actually working to instill youth entrepreneurship initiatives in Palestine. We're also leveraging our industry contacts to encourage more investors to invest in these initiatives. The goal is to bring about development and progress, but that is to be done by nurturing and helping these young entrepreneurs. It was also extremely heartening to see that these efforts of ours were appreciated in a Nasdaq article. We're also working with another company which can be considered to be an Airbnb for yachts. And I bring this up today because I truly believe that our future is a term called collaborative consumption. Owners in the future can rent out something that they're not using. It could be something as small as a bicycle to as large as a yacht in this case. In that sense, every resource owner in the future would be an entrepreneur. And as a result, our economies would be peer-to-peer economies or resource-sharing economies, as I like to call it. In the future, we would not just think for ourselves, but everyone around us. And you might ask me why. The answer to that, I believe, is quite simple. By 2050, there are going to be 9 billion people on this planet, and resource sharing or peer-to-peer opportunities are going to be the need of the hour to ensure that our scarce resources are being used to their best. Depending on these tough situations which are coming in the future, we would have to use the entrepreneurship talent within all of us to drive change and make sure that we survive. Let me quote Charles Darwin. It's not the strongest species that survive, not the most intelligent, but the most responsive to change. And now, I would like to conclude by quoting one of my favorite poets. Two roads diverge in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. My journey has just begun. I choose to take the road less traveled, with all of its ups and downs, twists and turns, and fears too. The question that remains is, would you guys too? Thank you so much for your time.